Hi there, my name is Charlie Parr. I'm in my room in Duluth. I'm here to show you guys some of my favorite Folkways records from my small but mighty collection. And first up is Dave Van Ronk sings ballads, blues, and spiritual. I think this was released in 1959. It was the first record that Dave Van Ronk put out at the picture of the espresso machine from the early coffee house days in Greenwich Village. It's a great record. It's still my favorite record, and I'm a big Dave Van Ronk fan. And he released a lot of stuff in his lifetime that I am a fan of all of it. I kind of keep going back to this record. My favorite track is Duncan and Brady. I learned how to play it based off of Dave's version of it and still play it in my sets to this day. Grateful to have this nice copy of it too. I have a copy of the Bahamian folk guitar of Joseph Spence, and not sure when this was released. 1965, according to the liner notes. Another amazing record. If you're not familiar with Joseph Spence, there's a few records out. This is my favorite. I think this was the first release of music that he had done. He was a guitarist that came from the Bahamas to the United States, worked for a spell, went back, and kind of incorporated some of the Piedmont style, I guess, playing into his playing. He sounds like no other guitar player. He's a cipher. He really is kind of one of those musicians who's a set of one, like Elizabeth Cotten, for example. My favorite track on this is There Will Be a Happy Meeting in Glory, which I've tried to learn. I know it's in drop D. That's as far as I've gotten. This is Doc Boggs. Not his initial recordings. These recordings were recorded by Mike Seeger in the 1960s. I unfortunately don't have the original liner notes with my copy. I wish I did, but I do not. Doc Boggs recorded in the late 1920s, 1927, and then again in the 60s after Mike Seeger tracked him down and convinced him that it would be okay to play the banjo again, that he would not, in fact, go to hell. So we're lucky that Mike Seeger found him. This is an incredible record. There was a few records from the 60s. I believe Smithsonian has compiled them into one CD set that you can get. It's also amazing. But I go back to this one a lot. It's got some sad songs on it. Drunkard's Lone Child, for example, is extremely sad, but it's beautiful. I've got a few favorites on here. The 60s version of Country Blues, which Doc Boggs kind of rewrote. He wrote it in the 20s and then kind of rewrote it in the 60s. And I think it's better. I don't know, it reflects a life lived. This also has Wild Bill Jones on it, which I think, there's a lot of versions of Wild Bill Jones out there, but I'm partial to Doc Boggs' version of it. This also has Oh Death and The Great Prodigal Son, which is my favorite version of that particular Bible story is Doc Boggs' version. So, Doc Boggs. Cat Iron. I looked. I thought about this record a lot. I heard Dave Ray a lot play Jimmy Bell, which is from this record. This is where Dave Ray heard it. I didn't know about this, but I heard Dave Ray play it a lot because I made it my business to go see Dave play every time I could. And he included Jimmy Bell in his sets a lot. It was included on the first Kerner and Glover record, Blues, Rags, and Hollers. Dave's version is superb. Cat Iron's version is mind-blowing. But I didn't hear it. I couldn't hear it. I could hear it after the everything got posted on the YouTube. You know, then I could hear it, and I kind of looked for this record. It's not easy to find, or it wasn't. Recently, Smithsonian Folkways has re-released it on vinyl, which is amazing. This is an original copy of it that I was on the radio in Minneapolis, and I talked about it. This was released in 1958, I believe. But I talked about this record on the radio and how hard it is to find and how much I wish I had a copy. And a fella had heard it on the radio, and I knew him from shows. He showed up and gave me his copy of it, which I'm still eternally grateful for that. It's a beautiful record. They found kind of Cat Iron this is a field recording basically done at Cat Iron's house on a small borrowed children's guitar, and it's incredible. It's an incredible record. My favorite song on this is Jimmy Bell, but not for lack of other amazing tracks. So definitely, it's easy to find now. It's definitely easy to find, and it's definitely worth looking up. Cat Iron. The last one that I wanted to talk about is also kind of my favorite. Mississippi's Big Joe Williams and his 9-string guitar. This record, I believe, is from 1962. Got extensive liner notes. It's nice, and all the lyrics are in here. But I think Big Joe Williams' mythology is as big as Big Joe was, and rightly so. I've read a lot of stuff about Big Joe and listened to a lot of his records. This is kind of my favorite one. I really like this record. TB Blues on here is my favorite track, but it's almost impossible to pick a favorite track because I put this record on and I really can't just listen to a track. I listen to the whole record every single time. For those of you who aren't familiar, Big Joe had a long career starting in the 1930s. Was the person who put Baby Please Don't Go on a record first. His guitar was modified by himself to have 9 strings. 3 of the strings on the guitar were doubled, and so his sound is unique. He's another musician that I include in that category of ciphers. So he's a set of one. You know when you hear Big Joe, that's the only person that sounds like that. And I've learned a lot of his songs, and I even tried to modify a guitar once to have 9 strings, but it didn't. It's like wearing. It's like when my dad died, and I had his hat. The hat that he wore in the wintertime, which is this kind of wool hat from Holland. I don't know where he got it. And I put it on my head, and it didn't feel right at all. It wasn't my hat. It didn't belong on my head, and I had to take it off. That's kind of what playing that guitar that I modified was like. I was trying to do something that I really wasn't cut out to do. In any case, these are just a few of the records from Folkways that I've come to love over my life. Some of these records I've had in my collection for most of my life. Others that I didn't have time to talk about included the record that Elizabeth Cotten had made. Any record from the Harry Smith Anthology of American Folk Music. I love that stuff very much. In any case, thanks for listening along with this.